A warm greeting to you all. I am Mrs. Marian, working as a tutor in Department of Fundamental of Nursing from Sri Balaji College of Nursing. Today, we are going to discuss about fluid and electrolyte balance from biochemistry. Introduction. Fluid and electrolyte balance is one of the key issues in maintaining homeostasis in the body and also plays an important role in protecting cellular function, tissue perfusion, and acid base balance. Fluid and electrolyte balance must also be maintained for the management of many clinical conditions. So water balance. Body is composed of 60 to 70 percentage of water. The distribution of water in body compartment is equal to the solute content of each compartment. The body water compartments, total body water 60 percentage of the body weight. It is divided into intracellular and extracellular. Intracellular means which functions within the cells. Extracellular means which functions with outside the cells. So the intracellular is 40 percentage of the body weight and extracellular is 20 percentage of the body weight. Extravascular is further divided into intravascular and extravascular. Intravascular is within the blood vessels. Extravascular means outside the blood vessels. So intravascular is about 4 percentage of the body weight and extravascular is about 16 percentage of the body weight. The water output. There are 4 distinct routes for the elimination of water from the body. First one is through urine, skin, lungs, and feces. First, we'll see about urine. The major route of water loss is through urine. The normal urine is 1 to 2 liter per day. The water loss through kidneys it is well regarded to meet the body demands. Urine production cannot be completely shut down despite there being no water intake due to the fact that some amount of water, about 500 ml per day, is essential as the medium to eliminate the waste products from the body. Next is through skin. The loss of water through the body surface is by perspiration. Loss of water ranges through 500 mg per day. It's an unregulated process. It mainly depends on atmospheric temperature and humidity. 1 degree centigrade rise in body temperature, that is 15% increase in the loss of water. Lungs. Loss is during lungs. The loss of water during respiration through lungs is equal to the loss of water is equal to the 700 ml per day through the lungs which we expire outside through air. Next is the feces. About 50 ml per day of water is lost through feces. Feces loss is tremendously increased in diarrhea. The loss of water by perspiration and respiration is collectively referred to as insensible water loss. Water balance in the body. Intake per day and output per day. Water in food is 1250 ml. Oxidation of food is 300 ml and drinking water is 1200 ml. So the total water intake is 2750 ml. Output per day. The urine is output is one day 1500 ml. The skin is 500 ml and for lungs is 700 ml. For feces is 50 ml. So the total output per day is 2750 ml. Electrolyte balance. Electrolytes are the compounds which dissociate in solution and exist as ions, positively and negatively charged particles. The electrolytes is expressed as milliequivalents rather than milligrams. Disturbance in the fluid and electrolyte balance. Tonicity, abnormalities in fluids and electrolyte balance. Hypertonic, effective osmolality is increased due to dehydration of cells. Hypotonic, effective osmolality is decreased, causes the brain cells to swell, which leads to headache, vomiting, and medullary herniation. Now we'll see the clinical conditions about dehydration. There are 3 facts about dehydration. Dehydration occurs when the body loses too much fluid. Fluid can be lost through illness, sweating, or exercise. Dehydration can cause muscle cramping. So the signs of mild dehydrations are dry mouth and sticky saliva, reduced urine, which is a dark yellow, listless behavior, and increased thirst. The signs of moderate dehydration: extreme thirst, dry inside the mouth and eyes. The eyes will not tear, that will be no tears will be present. Decreased urination with urine that is damp, amber, or brown. Lightheadedness, which is relieved by lying down. Irritable or restless. Arms or legs are cool to touch. Rapid heartbeat and muscle cramps. Or signs of severe dehydration: altered behavior, faintness not relieved by lying down, inability to stand or walk, rapid breathing, weak rapid pulse, cold, clammy skin or hot, dry skin, little or no urination for 12 or more hours, loss of consciousness. One reason not to ignore it is severe dehydration decreases the fluid in the body. The fluids and the blood does not travel to organs. Without this, the body can go into shock. So treatment for this dehydration is intake of plenty of water or intravenous isotonic solution, usually 5% of glucose, electrolyte, either oral or IV, monitoring the water and electrolyte status of the body. Overhydration, which can lead to water intoxication. This occurs when the amount of salt and the electrolytes in your body becomes too diluted. Hyponatremia, it is a condition in which the sodium levels become dangerously low. This is the main concern of overhydration. So the causes of overhydration is by making your body hold on to more fluid. These includes congestive heart failure, liver disease, kidney problems, syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, uncontrolled diabetes. So the symptoms of overhydration are common symptoms include nausea and vomiting, headache, changes in the mental state such as confusion or disorientation. Untreated overhydration can lead to dangerously low levels of sodium in your blood. This can cause more severe symptoms such as muscle weakness, spasms or cramps, seizures, unconsciousness, and coma. So treatment for this is intake of plenty of water or intravenous isotonic solution, usually 5% of glucose, electrolytes either oral or intravenous, monitoring the water and electrolyte status of the body. Now we'll see in detail about the imbalance of electrolytes. So first one is the sodium. It is a major cation of extracellular fluid. The total body sodium is 400 milli equivalent. It is percent 50% in the bones, 40% in extracellular fluid, 10% in soft tissues. So the normal serum plasma level is 136 to 145 milli equivalent per liter. Hyponatremia. Hyponatremia is a low sodium level in the blood. It is generally defined as the sodium concentration which is less than 135 milli equivalent per liter. Severe hyponatremia is being below 120 milli equivalent per liter. So the symptoms are, there will be mild symptoms such as decreased ability to think, headaches, nausea. Severe symptoms are confusion, seizures, and coma. Hypernatremia. Hypernatremia is a high sodium ion level in the blood. The serum sodium level of more than 145 millimole per liter. Severe symptoms occurs when levels are about 160 millimole per liter. The symptoms are early symptoms, a strong feeling of thirst, weakness, nausea, and loss of appetite. Severe symptoms are confusion, muscle twitching, and bleeding in or around the brain. Hypokalemia. Hypokalemia is a low level of potassium in the bloodstream. Levels below 3.5 millimole defined as hypokalemia. The symptoms are mildly low levels do not typically cause symptoms. Feeling tired, leg cramps, weakness, and constipation. It increases the risk of an abnormal heart rhythm, which are often too slow and can cause cardiac arrest. Next is hyperkalemia. It is an elevated level of potassium which with levels of above 5.5 milli per liter in the blood serum. The symptoms are typically it results in no symptoms. When it is severe, palpitations, muscle pain, muscle weakness, or numbness. And abnormal heart rate can occur, which can result in cardiac arrest and death. Chloride. The intake, output, and metabolism of sodium and chloride run in parallel. The normal serum range for chloride is 97 to 107 milli equivalent per liter. In cerebrospinal fluid, it is 125 milli equivalent per liter. The renal threshold for chloride is about 110 milli equivalent per liter. The daily excretion of chloride is 5 to 8 milligram per liter. Next is hypochloremia. Hypochloremia, it is an electrolyte disturbance in which there is an elevated level of chloride in the blood. The normal serum range for chloride is 96 to 106 milli equivalent per liter. The chloride levels at or above 110 milli equivalent per liter usually indicates kidney dysfunction as it is a regulator of chloride concentration. Next is hypochloremia. Hypochloremia is an electrolyte disturbance when there is an abnormally low level of chloride present in the blood. So it is associated with hypoventilation, chronic respiratory acidosis plus metabolic alkalosis, decreased blood acidity. It is often due to vomiting. It occurs in cystic fibrosis. Next is calcium homeostasis. The body contains approximately 1400 gram of calcium. The reduction in calcium levels leads to increased calcium reabsorption from the bone. It increases the calcium reabsorption and stimulates the formation of the active metabolite of vitamin D that increases the gut reabsorption of elemental calcium and facilitate the action of the bone. Calcium abnormalities. Hypercalcemia. It is an ionized calcium concentration which is above 5.3 milligram per deciliter. Etiology: hyperparathyroidism, cancer, Paget's disease, pheochromocytoma, hyperthyroidism, thiazide diuretics. Etiology is, treatment for this is severe hypercalcemia. Initial supportive therapy includes furosemide to increase the calcium excretion. Calcitonin reduces bone reabsorption and has an immediate effect and lasts for 48 hours. Prolongation can be done by using corticosteroid. Etiology: parathyroid or thyroid surgery, severe pancreatitis, magnesium deficiency, massive blood transfusion. So treatment is asymptomatic. Calcium supplementation is not required. When the symptoms are symptomatic and which can be seen, that time IV calcium therapy, initially 100 milligram elemental calcium over a period of about 5 to 10 minutes. Subsequently, a calcium infusion of about 0.5 to mg per kg per hour is given. So the electrolyte disorders, signs and symptoms we'll see. Sodium, when there is excess, we have already seen hypernatremia, thirst, CNS deterioration and increased interstitial fluid. When it is reduced, deficit means hyponatremia, it is called as CNS deterioration will be present. And in potassium, which is excess, it is called as hyperkalemia, ventricular fibrillation, ECG changes, CNS changes. And if it is a deficit means bradycardia, ECG changes and CNS changes are present. Acid-base regulation. The body's metabolic processes consists of produce acids. These acids must be neutralized and excreted to maintain the acid-base balance. Normally, the body has three mechanisms by which it regulates the acid-base balance to maintain the arterial pH 7.35 and so 7.45. Buffer system, the respiratory system and the renal system. The regulatory mechanism react at same speed, buffer reacts immediately. The respiratory system responds in minutes and reaches the maximum effectiveness in hours. The renal response takes 2 to 3 days to respond maximally. Alteration in the acid-base balance. The acid-base imbalance is produced by the ratio of 1:20 between acid and base content is altered. A primary disease or process may alter one side of the ratio. The compensatory process attempts to maintain the other side of the ratio. When compensatory mechanism fails, an acid-base imbalance occurs. Classification. The acid-base imbalance are classified as respiratory imbalance, metabolic imbalance. First is the respiratory imbalance. It affects the carbon acid and concentration. And metabolic imbalance, it affects the base bicarbonate. Respiratory acidosis is a clinical disorder in which the pH is less than 7.35 and it is greater than 42 milli Hg. That is, it may either acute or chronic process. Elevated plasma level, elevated carbonic acid, acute pulmonary edema, atelectasis, and impaired respiratory muscles. Clinical manifestations are increased pulse, increased respiratory rate, increased blood pressure, mental cloudiness, cerebrovascular vasodilation, increased intracranial pressure, papilledema, feeling of fullness in the head. So the medical management for this is treatment is directed by improving the ventilation. Pharmacological agents such as bronchodilators, antibiotic and anticoagulants are given. So pulmonary hygiene measures, adequate hydration and mechanical ventilation. Hydrogen ion concentration, acidity or alkalinity of a solution is determined by its concentration of hydrogen ions. The unit used to describe acid base is pH. The pH scale ranges from 1 to 4. A neutral solution measures 7. The normal blood plasma is slightly alkaline and has a normal pH range of about 7.35 to 7.45. Causes: respiratory alkalosis is always due to hyperventilation, anxiety, hypoxemia, chronic hypocapnia, decreased serum bicarbonate levels, and chronic hepatic insufficiency and cerebral tumors. Clinical manifestation: lightheadedness due to vasoconstriction, decreased cerebral flow, numbness, tinnitus, loss of consciousness, tachycardia, ventricular and arterial dysarrhythmias. So the medical management is treatment depends upon on the underlying cause, respiratory alkalosis, anxiety. Patient is instructed to breathe more slowly to allow carbon dioxide to accumulate. Sedative may be required to relieve hyperventilation in very anxious patients. Metabolic acidosis. Metabolic acidosis, it is a clinical disturbance which is characterized by a low pH, increased hydrogen ions, and a low plasma bicarbonate concentration. It can be produced by a gain of hydrogen ions or a loss of bicarbonate. It can be divided into clinically in two forms according to the values of the serum and ion gap. So the clinical manifestation for this is headache, confusion, drowsiness, increased respiratory rate, nausea and vomiting, decreased blood pressure, cold and clammy skin, dysrhythmias, and shock. So the diagnostic findings, how we'll find it out is arterial blood gas analysis. Changes includes a low bicarbonate level less than 22 milli equivalent per liter, low pH less than 7.35. Calculation of anion gap is helpful. ECG will detect dysrhythmias caused by increased potassium. Medical management. The treatment is directed at correcting the metabolic defect. If problem results from excessive intake of chloride, treatment is aimed at eliminating the source of chloride. Bicarbonate is administered if the pH is less than 7.1. So the serum potassium level is monitored closely and hypokalemia is corrected as acidosis reversed. Metabolic alkalosis. Metabolic alkalosis is a clinical disturbance characterized by the high pH we have already seen, which have a high plasma bicarbonate concentration. It can be produced by a gain of bicarbonate or a loss of H plus ions. Causes: it is due to vomiting, gastric suction, pyloric stenosis, diuretic therapy that promotes excretion of potassium, cystic fibrosis, chronic ingestion of milk, and calcium carbonate. So the difference between the acidosis and alkalosis is acidosis. It is a condition which is characterized by the anions, that is H ions, or a loss of base ions, bicarbonate in ECF, in which the pH falls below 7.35. In alkalosis, it occurs when there is a lack of H ions or a gain of base and the pH exceeds 7.45. So, medical management. Sufficient chloride must be supplied to kidneys to absorb the sodium with chloride. Administering sodium chloride fluids, histamine to receptor antagonists such as cimetidine, Tagmet, reduce the gastric HCl, thereby decreasing the metabolic alkalosis associated with gastric suction. Input and output should be monitored. So, conclusion for this is fluid movements in the body and fluid electrolytes are the inevitable process of normal body function. So before that, we'll see what and all we have seen until now. We'll do a brief what conditions we have seen. First, we have seen about the water balance in the body and how and all water output is eliminated through urine, skin, lungs, and feces. Next, we have seen all this. After that, we have seen water balance in the body, how one intake per day is maintained and output per day is maintained. Next, we have seen the definition of electrolyte balance and disturbance in the fluid and electrolyte balance. Then we have seen about the clinical conditions of dehydration, the signs of mild dehydration, moderate dehydration, and severe dehydration. So what will happen? And also the treatment for dehydration. What is overhydration? What are the causes? What are the symptoms and the treatment? Next, electrolyte imbalance. So electrolyte imbalance means the ions, sodium ions, which that is hyponatremia. What are the causes, signs, and symptoms for hypernatremia, for hypokalemia, symptoms, and chloride intake of hypochloremia, and what is calcium hemostasis, calcium abnormalities, the causes and the treatment. Next, we have seen about acid-base regulations. What is an acid-base regulation? The two types of acid-base regulation, that is classification, respiratory imbalance, metabolic imbalance. What is respiratory imbalance and what is metabolic imbalance? What is respiratory acidosis? What are the signs and symptoms present? And what are the medical management and hydrogen ion concentration? What are the causes for this and clinical manifestation? Medical management. Next is the metabolic acidosis. What are the signs and symptoms of metabolic acidosis? The diagnostic findings and medical management. Metabolic alkalosis means what? What are the causes and what are the medical management? Now, we have so far seen about the fluid and the electrolyte imbalance in our body. Now the conclusion is the assessment of body fluid is important to determine the causes of imbalance disorders. So fluid and electrolyte balance is very important for us for the normal body function. Thank you.